What would he do if I didn't wake up? I don't know. I was just really scared.
A terrified teenager describes the moments when a predator busted into her room. The CBS 2 News team is here, and the suspect search is our top story. CBS 2 Orange County reporter Stacy Butler spoke with that teen tonight and has the story live from Santa Ana. Stacy.
Yeah, Pat, police tell me that this guy was trying door handles on these cars behind me before he jumped over that fence, entered the condominium where the girl lives with her family. She recounts the terrifying moments that happened next.
I was just really scared.
This 15-year-old Santa Ana girl recounts what happened minutes after a neighbor's security camera caught this man wearing a red shirt scaling the back fence. He entered her family's condo through an open back door and entered her bedroom upstairs.
I just got that feeling that someone was staring at me. So I opened my eyes and then I see this guy and I didn't know who he was.
She says before she could react, he ran for the door.
I was just there looking at the door, seeing if what I saw was real or was it just a dream. But it wasn't a dream because he opened the door again, and then that's when he's like, "Hey, do you want it?" And then I'm like, "What? Want what?" And then that's when he pulled down his pants and showed me his private area. And then I just got scared and I screamed for my dad 2 times.
Police say that's when the guy took off running. 10 minutes later, you can see from that same security camera the guy jump over the back fence running as he tried to pull his pants up. Police are warning everyone in the area to lock their doors and windows until they catch this guy.
I'm just really scared now. I was kind of cautious before, but now I'm kind of scared. Very scared, actually.
Police are actively looking for this suspect. If that composite sketch that we showed you looks familiar, Santa Ana police would like to hear from you. Pat?
All right, thank you, Stacy. Breaking news in Burbank now, where debris in the road took out at least a dozen cars' tires. It happened on the southbound 5 at Alameda. The cars all safely pulled to the side of the road so they could begin the repair process. Now, we aren't sure what debris caused all this damage, but it has now been cleared and traffic is flowing. A packed town hall in Venice tonight over plans for a temporary homeless shelter. CBS 2's Crystal Cruz is live in Venice with that heated discussion. Crystal.
Hi, Pat. Heated because there's businesses and homes around here, and right back there where the fenced off areas is around that green area is where this homeless shelter could go. And this has people in the neighborhood saying, wait, this is way concerning.
We were never consulted about it in the first place.
That's what we're
so
doing.
how is it?
Lots of questions Wednesday night for Councilman Mike Bonin over a proposed temporary homeless shelter in the city of Venice.
This isn't for 100 people only. This isn't people staying in here permanently. Some folks will take longer, and some folks will be done more quickly.
How can you ensure that people will actually go there? Can you ensure they'll actually go?
I'm going to be answering the questions from my constituents tonight.
Hundreds of homeless people are living in makeshift shelters around the beach community.
We need to house homeless people. We have a lot of homeless in LA. We should not be afraid to have them. They are people.
Neighbors were invited to learn more about the temporary shelter that would offer 24/7 access, security, storage, showers, and accommodate people and pets.
My hope is that the security that surrounds the development does not look like an armed camp, because that will give people the assumption that perhaps there will be trouble.
2 people waved a big yellow sign that read, "Venice says no."
We're just asking for a vote.
Others fear a temporary shelter will impact traffic, parking, noise, aesthetics, and public safety.
We're very concerned about this being introduced here because we believe it's going to be a magnet for even more homeless people.
Some question if the homeless will even use the shelter.
If there was a shelter that you could go to, would you go to it?
No. Some would and some wouldn't.
Why not?
Based on history's past, hell no.
Well, I mean,
look, first of all, we're urban refugees. We're not homeless.
And the shelter could open later this year and would stay open for just 3 years. I'm Crystal Cruz, live in Venice tonight. Back to you, Pat.
All right, thank you, Crystal. Now, the LA County DA's office is reviewing a sex crime allegation against actor Sylvester Stallone. The DA's office says the Santa Monica Police Department presented the case today. Last November, an alleged victim told detectives of an incident involving the now 71-year-old in the 1990s. Stallone's attorney said he denies the claim. And tonight there is growing concern for Marvel Comics legend Stan Lee. He just got a restraining order against his business manager and is claiming elder abuse. CBS 2's Peter Dowd joins us live in Studio City with more information about this. Peter.
Yeah, Pat, news of today's restraining order has sent shockwaves among Lee's fans, including here at DJ's Universal Comics. And meanwhile, the LAPD may be investigating allegations of elder abuse. He's the man who helped create the legendary comic characters Spider-Man, Black Panther, Iron Man, and many others. But now it appears that 95-year-old Stan Lee may be in need of a hero himself after a judge granted him a restraining order Wednesday against his former business manager. The restraining order accuses Kea Morgan of taking advantage of Lee's impaired hearing, vision, and judgment, and also reveals the LAPD is investigating reports of elder abuse against the Marvel Comics icon. Lee's restraining order against Morgan comes just days after LA police arrested Morgan on suspicion of filing a false police report. According to The Hollywood Reporter, it was likely when Morgan called 911 earlier this month to report that Lee was held at gunpoint by two men who demanded money. Shortly before Morgan's arrest, a video appeared on Lee's Twitter page, in which he made it clear Morgan was the only person now working with him.
I have only one partner, only one person who does represent me, and that's Kea Morgan.
But there are growing concerns among Lee's longtime fans he's being manipulated by those closest to him.
It is elder abuse because he's worth so much money and they're trying to capitalize on him.
Kat Jerkin is the owner of DJ's Universal Comics and hopes that Lee, a man revered by so many, gets help quickly.
He needs better people around him. He's old and, we don't want him to go away just yet.
At this point, the media has not been able to reach Stan Lee or Kea Morgan. Meanwhile, Lee's former attorney, Tom Lawless, is acting as his guardian, and a hearing is set for July. Back to you.
All right, thank you, Peter. The president's former personal attorney, Michael Cohen, has reportedly split with his legal team and is now getting new representation. And this comes as the FBI expands its investigation into his business dealings, including Cohen's secret payment to adult movie star Stormy Daniels to keep quiet about her alleged affair with President Trump. Now, the president claims tonight there is no longer a nuclear threat from North Korea after the Singapore summit. CBS 2 political reporter Dave Ryan joins us now to expand on this, Dave.
Now, Pat, the president is no stranger to bold statements, right? But even by that standard, this one really stands out, and it's getting a lot of attention. President Trump's boldest statement yet about North Korean nukes got plenty of attention today, but much of it from doubters who feel this could wind up being Mr. Trump's mission accomplished moment, like former President Bush, who declared the Iraq War had been won 8 years before the war ended. President Trump emerged from Air Force One Wednesday after having spent much of his flight time sending out a barrage of tweets highlighting his accomplishments at the Singapore summit. There is no longer a nuclear threat from North Korea, he tweeted. Sleep well tonight. That declaration got a stunned reaction across party lines.
Well, that would be hyperbole.
The denuclearization of that certainly has not happened, nor is there any prospect that it will.
This is the beginning, I think, of a long process. We're not at the end of the road, we're at the beginning.
At a news conference Wednesday night in Seoul, South Korea, Pompeo clarified two key issues. First of all, he said the president's claim that there was no longer a nuclear threat from North Korea was based on the discussions he had just had with Kim Jong-un and the expectation that the North Korean leader would be true to his word.
He said this in his press conference. It could be the case that our effort will not work, but we're determined to set the conditions so that we can right this failure of decades and reset the conditions for North Koreans.
Pompeo also clarified his understanding of when the U.S. might rescind the economic sanctions on North Korea.
We're going to get complete denuclearization, and only then will there be relief from the sanctions.
Now, that gentleman, Secretary of State Pompeo, will certainly be doing the heavy lifting on the North Korean nukes agreement. The president has directed him to negotiate the details of North Korea's denuclearization. And Pompeo said Wednesday he expects a major disarmament in North Korea by the end of the president's first term. Pat, that's pretty ambitious.
That is for sure. All right. Thank you for that, Dave Ryan.
Sure.
Now, look at this, quite the duo. Stormy Daniels' attorney, Michael Avenatti, and former White House Communications Director Anthony Scaramucci are on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert tonight, and they actually found common ground.
If the mooch was still at the White House, the relationship with the press would be far better than it is, because the assault that has occurred on the press and the First Amendment in this country over the last 18 months is shocking and disturbing, period.
And I have said this publicly, and I'll say it here, we have to hold sacred the First Amendment. And one of the only things that
Colbert also asked the two about reports that they are pitching a show together. You can see the entire interview on The Late Show right after this newscast. Ahead here at 11 and only on 2, we're seeing officer body cam video of the arrest of a local school board member. Plus, she's the reckless raccoon known all around the world. Find out what's now happened to that brave little girl.
I'm tracking a 10 to 15 degree temperature drop in the forecast. Could it happen in your neighborhood? I'll let you know coming up.